Thank you for watching this presentation. If you are enjoying our programming, please give us your feedback at dovebroadcasting.com or WGGS16.com. And be sure to connect with us on Facebook. Just search for WGGS TV. Thanks again for watching Dove Broadcasting, your home for something clean in the air.
Hello and welcome to the Wednesday night edition of Nite Line. I'm your host, Bill Critser, tonight. I'm pastor of Freedom Fellowship Church, and my wife Ann is here with us. She's my co-host, and I want to start right off at the bat by telling you we have got a special program tonight. It's something that needs to be dealt with, something we need to talk about, and it's something the public needs to get involved with and learn about. So you're in for a treat tonight. So if you have any prayer requests, call them in. We're going to pray over everything. If you got a need, talk to the prayer counselors. They will help you in every way they can. If you noticed I'm a little bit hoarse tonight, don't let that bother you, because what you're going to hear tonight will help maybe change some things that we've been seeing and hearing about a lot the last few months and years taking place all over our nation. So we just want to get started with that tonight. So Ann, share the scripture.
Okay, the scripture tonight is taken from Matthew 18, verse 10, and it reads, "Take heed that you despise not one of these little ones, for I say unto you that in heaven their angels do always behold the face of my Father which is in heaven." And of course, we're going to be talking about the children and child abuse tonight, and like you said, it's so needed in the time that we're living in. You know, we're hearing it in all areas today, and so we're just so thankful that these people have come to share with us tonight.
Yeah, and that's one of the things here about talking about this. That verse of scripture that he mentioned, you know, the one you read from Matthew, despise not the little ones. And we need to understand, according to the Greek word I have down at the bottom, that word does not mean only little children. It means new believers in the faith.
Exactly.
So we don't want to do anything to hurt any of them, but particularly the little children. We want them to, you know, something. So that's why we do that thing. But folks, we've got a real group of people that's involved, and it thrills me that they're here, because we've been seeing, and if you watch television any at all, you know that they're talking a lot about here lately about abusing. The children that are being abused. We've seen on the local news, you've seen that people have been, take their babies, they get angry, they shake them and cause brain damage, and some of them have even died. And so we need to know that these things are going on around us, and it's increasing. And these people that's going to be with us tonight, they're going to be showing us some things, telling us some things about how to be alert to this kind of thing, how to be ready, and what to do if you see something like this happen. But they're doing a job, and we've got quite a group with us tonight. We got Janika Medwood's with us tonight. She's here. And then we got Kimberly Gonzalez, Janet Gaffney, Tia Bradley, and Bonehead and Mongoose. We'll get to that later, so don't worry about it. But right now, I want to introduce to you Jamika
yes.
Medwoods.
Yes.
Good to have you.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Let me ask you this, Janika. How long have you been involved with working with the kids like this? Because you're parent education coordinator with the Julie Valentine Center.
Yes, I am. And I've been with the Julie Valentine Center now for about 2 years.
Okay.
And for those that may not know, the Julie Valentine Center is a sexual assault and child abuse recovery center here in Greenville County.
Yeah.
We serve children who have been physically and sexually abused in Greenville County as well as Pickens County. We also deal with adult survivors or adult victims of childhood sexual abuse as well.
Okay, so that's quite a bit. I've heard of the Julie Valentine Center many times.
Good.
And it seemed like they were on one of the local TV stations not long ago. One of them was talking about some of the things that were going on with y'all.
Yes.
So what I want to ask you too, though, When you say child abuse, what does that include and who is affected by that?
Okay. Well, child abuse, I like to describe it as anytime someone does something or does not do something that results in the harm of the well-being of a child. And many children are affected by it. Child abuse does not have a specific type of child. It affects many different children of different races, different socioeconomic statuses, demographics, boys, girls. Nobody is exempted, unfortunately.
And there's no age limit to it either, is there?
You're absolutely right.
You know,
There's
we
no
say
age
child
limit.
abuse, but there's no age.
You're absolutely correct.
What actually involved with the Julie Valentine Center? What can they do? What do y'all do down there to help those that have been affected by this abuse or sexual assault?
Mm-hmm. Well, we like to provide intervention and treatment for people who are victims or survivors of childhood sexual abuse or sexual assault. So with intervention, we provide 24-hour hospital accompaniment for people who need forensic medical exams done, and those are for children as well as adults. And then we have a 24-hour hotline that people can call to receive questions or have their questions answered, to receive support and anything related to child abuse or sexual assault. We also have forensic interviews that are done for children who disclose any type of abuse or abuse may be suspected, as well as our medical exams are done as well to make sure that children are safe physically. For treatment, we have individual therapy as well as group therapy for individuals who are survivors and victims of childhood sexual abuse and sexual assaults. Our groups are really good with helping people feel supported with one another, victims as well as parents, as well as caregivers. They're able to come together, receive the support that they need, but also they're able to meet people who may have similar circumstances.
Yeah, well, that's so needed, and I can just imagine some small child, what that does to them, and how long does it take to get them kind of out where they can be normal again, or if they ever get normal again.
Mm-hmm. Well, they absolutely can heal from abuse, and that's exactly what the Julie Valentine Center does. We want to be a pillar of hope and inspiration for children as well as adults to know that they can live the life that they choose to, and we're here to help and walk with them through that process.
So y'all take and stay with them during the whole process.
We start with prevention and education, so we're out in the communities educating children and educating community members about childhood sexual abuse and sexual assaults, and then we intervene with the hospital accompaniments and the forensic interviews I just talked about, and then treatment by being able to provide therapy services.
Takes a lot of love, doesn't it?
It does.
I think that's the key to all of it, really. But this thing, how common would you say sexual abuse is first, and what would you say would be the average age y'all see most of the time?
I would say that sexual abuse is very common. Abuse in general is very common. Children, about 1 in 10 children before the ages of 18 will be abused. 1 in 10, so that's a tremendous amount of children, unfortunately, that will become victims of abuse.
But when you think that's 10% of the population.
Absolutely, absolutely. And our age range really is different. We see small children as well as up to teens for different reasons. So there's not a specific age range that we see. Most common, we see a wide variety.
Yeah, Ann? Go ahead.
How can parents recognize, so often small children, they never tell their parents. And so the parents don't know. So how can parents recognize that children have been abused?
That's a very good question that I get asked a lot. And the way I like to answer it is a lot of the signs that represent childhood sexual abuse or may let people know that child sexual abuse is being or is happening are also signs that are common for any type of child trauma, the loss of a family member, the loss of a pet, So we as parents want to be mindful of any type of change in behavior and change in pattern. But there are certain things that we need to be mindful of. If a child has sexual knowledge beyond their developmental age, that's something that you want to pay attention to as a parent. Also, if children are acting out on other children, other adults, toys, animals, those are things that you want to pay attention to. If there are changes in behaviors, like they used to be very outgoing and now they're very withdrawn. Those are things you want to pay attention to. But it also can be something very positive where now they want to be very perfect. They want to make good grades. They don't want to get in trouble. Those also can all be signs. But as you can tell, those are signs that a child that may be being bullied may experience as well.
Right.
So it's very important that parents are talking to their children about abuse. And it can't just be a one-time conversation. It has to be a conversation that happens over time as a child grows and a child develops. And that's the most important way that parents will be able to tell exactly what's going on in their child's life.
And it's been so many here lately, it looks to me like that you hear so much about that's being abused. And this just seems like it's coming out of the woodwork now all of a sudden. So you wonder about it.
And you know, we've seen a lot lately on television about babies, even babies being not only physically abused, but sexually abused. And that's something that I don't ever remember in the past that a baby was sexually abused. So are you seeing some of that too?
We are seeing some of that. And it's something that we have seen. It's just that society now is doing more to talk about it. Just
That's
like
true.
you guys are
That
doing
is-
tonight.
That's why I'm
You're
glad you're
talking
here.
about it. You're making people
Right.
aware of it. And so now we can address it better because people are talking about it and are aware of it and are not trying to keep it a secret.
Well, now, do y'all work with the police too?
We do. We work with law enforcement as well as the
do.
Department of Social Services. We do.
That's good. That's good. So give us some examples of children that you've worked with that were healed.
Well, so one of the things that I like to talk about is how our services kind of go full circle. So we
Right.
have our prevention department or our prevention area that goes out into the elementary, middle, and high schools and into the community, and they're talking about identifying and preventing sexual assault, sexual harassment, as well as sexual abuse. And oftentimes when our staff go out into the schools and talk about those things, it leads a child to ultimately come out and disclose abuse.
Oh, that's great.
Absolutely. We've seen it so many times. And when they disclose abuse, then they're able to come through the center and receive a forensic interview, which is interviews that are conducted by skilled, trained professionals that are done in a child-friendly, non-leading, and developmentally appropriate way. If a medical exam needs to be done, our forensic pediatricians are there to provide that medical exam, and then they can go on to receive treatment. And once they receive treatment, they can go and do individual therapy as well as group therapy and really kind of get a full service of healing and comfort and empowerment and inspiration from our center.
Oh, that is so good. That's so encouraging that they go in the schools too, and speak to the children because so many children, if they're abused, they don't tell their parents.
Absolutely.
And some children grow up in that environment and they think that's just a natural thing. And so it's so good that they're educated in that situation. That's really good.
But one of the things too that I was just thinking about as you was talking about that, Ann, many times we find that in poor areas it seems to be a bigger problem than it is in the more developed areas, let's say. And this is in nations as well. I know when I was in Haiti and some of the other places ministering, and we hear about these kind of things, but they don't deal with them. See, they just let it go. They push it under the rug because they don't really have the doctors and the facilities down in places like that in the poor nations. And so a lot of these kids, but let me ask you this, when they grow up, if they've been abused for a longer period of time, do they a tendency to become abusers themselves?
It's actually a very small percentage of people who are abused that go on to be abusers themselves. What we do find is that that small percentage accounts for a large number of children that are being abused, but it is actually not true that children who are abused go on to be abusers. And that's also can have a lot to do with why children are reluctant to tell, because of that stereotype that might be placed on them. So we definitely like to let people know that most people who are abused do not go on to be abusers.
Yeah, that's something that I had not heard that, because you find other areas like addiction to drugs or alcohol, it'll pass on from one generation to the next sometime. But that's good. I didn't know that case was like that much with the abuse.
Yeah, that's fair.
What should parents look for, and how can they be cautious to protect their children?
One of the ways is just to be mindful of the adults as well as the other children that parents are around. We as a society tend to think of the big scary man, and it can be anybody, man, woman, another child. We as parents need to be alert and aware of the adults and the children that we are allowing our children to be around. That's going to be the biggest key, as well as understanding that most children are, their offenders are people that they know. You know, many times we grow up wondering or learning about stranger danger, and that's just simply not true when it comes to child abuse. It is oftentimes the people that these children know, family members, church leaders, youth leaders, all types of people that children trust, which also accounts for why they are so reluctant to tell.
And you know, even now, we were talking before for the program, even in the schools now we're seeing, you know, coaches, teachers, in churches, we have to be careful.
Absolutely.
You know, we can't be naive. We have to be careful, you know, about who the children and protecting the children.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, as you say, family members. A lot of times it's through family members.
You are absolutely correct. I like to say that nobody is the exception. We have to be watchful and mindful of anybody that is around our child. Again, that's whether it's an adult or another child.
That's right. You've got to know those that are around you.
Absolutely.
Know them good enough to know what's going on with them.
Absolutely.
I can see that, yeah.
Now, how can people get in touch with you?
You can get in touch with me through the Julie Valentine Center. My direct contact information, my phone number is 864-331-0560, and my extension is 231. My email address is jnedwards@julievalentincenter.org, and that's spelled just the way it sounds.
Yeah.
We have a 24-hour hotline as well, which is 467-3633, and this is for survivors, as well as community members who may have any questions or concerns. Please utilize our 24-hour hotline to contact us.
Or if they suspect somebody, they can
call that number. Another good number to call to report child abuse is DSS's number is 467-7750. And that is also 24 hours. And you can call anonymously. So you don't have to leave your name or your contact information. You can call and just report the information that you are aware of.
Oh, that's great.
That's great, too.
So also, if churches want somebody to come out and speak to them, or social organizations, do you have available people that can come out?
We sure do. We sure do.
That's great.
Absolutely. Many of our staff members go out, as well as our volunteers. Okay. We're always looking for opportunities to go into the community and talk about childhood sexual abuse, because that's one of the biggest ways that we're going to be able to end it, which is what Julie Valentine Center mission is.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how could the community help you? So that tells you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Being willing to talk about it and being willing to take risk. Oftentimes when abuse comes out in the public, you get a lot of adults who have suspected or knew or maybe thought or seen something that just wasn't right, but they didn't speak out on it. They didn't report it. So we need community members to really be willing to take that risk, because children take the ultimate risk when we don't. They sit there in that abuse for many years, unfortunately, and have to suffer in silence quite often, as well as supporting each other. When a victim does come out, supporting them and not blaming them, not being critical of them, but supporting them and letting them know that we rally behind them. And that makes a statement to them, but as well as offenders, that we will not tolerate that behavior in our community.
Exactly.
Well, I'm glad you were here and was able to share this with us.
Thank you so much for coming.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
We're going down to some music. Mark 209 is with us. That's with Mark Anthony, and they're going to be doing the song So High.
God's love is so high, you can't get over
so
it.
Wide,
So wide, you can't get around
so
it.
low,
So low, you can't get under it. You must come in at the door.
when he's high,
So high, you can't get over
so
it.
wide,
So wide, you can't get
I know
around
he's
it.
so low,
So low, you can't get under it. You must come in at the door.
Well, I went down in the valley, you know I did, over there every state. I so got happy in the valley, you know I stayed right there all day. And it's high,
So high, you can't get over it.
it's wide,
So wide, you can't get around
so
it.
low,
So low, you can't get under it. You must come in at the door.
well, I ain't been to heaven, but I'm told the gates are pearl, you know the streets are paved with gold, and it's high,
So high, you can't get over it.
it's wide,
So wide, you can't get
I know
around
he's
it.
so low,
So low, you can't
Pick
get
that on
around
anyway,
it. You must come in at the door.
well, it's
So
high,
high, you can't get over
it's
it.
wide,
So wide, you can't get around
so
it.
low,
So low, you can't get under it. You must come in at the door.
Hallelujah. I'll tell you, that makes you think, don't it? So high. Amen. Well, we're going to go back and talk some more with Tamika, and this interests me about the community, you know, about what the community can do, because all of us here, I'm a grandfather, and my great-grandmother here.
Yeah. Thanks.
She looks so good.
But we see this all the time. And I've been a pastor now for 30-some years, and you know, we hear about it, and fortunately, I've never had to deal with it with my church and in my families. But what can the community do to help each other?
Absolutely. Well, one of the ways that the community can really help the Julie Valentine Center is through our donations and getting us the things that we need that are listed on our agency wish list, which is on our website at julievalentinecenter.org. We are an agency that services are completely free. So people who come through our doors do not have to pay for anything. And the reason we're able to do that is with the support of the community. And the way that we're going to be able to continue to do that is with the support of the community. We have, again, our agency wish list. We're always in need of clothes. Most people are unaware that when a forensic medical exam is conducted in the hospitals, the victim's clothes are taken in as evidence.
Yeah.
So whatever they walk in the door with, that is not what they will walk out with. And we want them to be able to have new clothing, and that's for adults and children. So that's something that we're always in need of, as well as snacks. A lot of the children that come for forensic interviews and medical exams can be there for a period of time. And so we like to be able to provide them with healthy snacks. We have two big fundraisers that we do every year. Our Run to Overcome, that's done the first weekend in August, and then our Julie Valentine Center Luncheon, which is going to be February the 12th of this year. That is a great way for community members to be able to support us, our clients, and the services that we like to be able to provide. And again, all of that information is on our website at julievalentinecenter.org.
Man, that's good.
That is
Yeah,
great.
that's great.
That is great.
See, I didn't know all of that was over there. I mean, I knew about the center, but I didn't know y'all did that much about it.
Oh, yes.
How long, have you got facilities there where they can stay several days or what?
We do not have any shelters, but we work very closely with local shelters in the community to be able to provide clients with resources for some place to stay. Because it is times where the assault may have happened at home and they don't want to go back there.
Yeah.
And we have awesome volunteers that are victim advocates in the waiting room, or excuse me, in the hospital that work closely with social workers and our nurses to provide a shelter for families, so or victims. So we do work closely with shelters in the community.
And that's good to know, because now people watching us right now, you that's watching, you may know of someone, like that maybe needs some help. You give them the name of Julie Valentine Center and their phone numbers or whatever, because that's something that needs to be, I think, gotten out more into the public so that they know it, because the communities that they don't hear about this.
Absolutely. It's a topic that still makes people very uncomfortable,
Yes, it
unfortunately.
is.
And that's why a lot of time it's shunned, it's hidden, people don't come forward. And a lot of times people have to suffer in silence. It takes an extreme amount of courage and strength to come forward when you've been abused, either as a child as well as an adult.
Yeah.
And one of the ways that we can help people feel more comfortable is being willing to talk about it and open about it and supporting the victims and the survivors.
Right, Ann, go ahead.
Well, talk to people out there tonight that, they're adults, and we know this because we worked with the House of Promise for
right.
so many years, and where we ministered to people that had hurts and wounds and other things, and we met a lot of adults that were still carrying those hurts and wounds, and maybe they were abused sexually, as a child, but never told anybody, but they were still wounded and hurt by that. And then, there are adults, I'm sure, out there that are listening tonight that need to know that there's help. There is help, for
right.
them. And I'm sure you all minister to all ages, don't you?
We serve people of various ages, the little children all the way up to the really grown people, as my daughter likes to say.
The really grown
The
people.
really grown people. But you're absolutely right. I always like to make people aware of the services that we provide, that we do provide intervention and we do provide treatment for those who have suffered in silence for so long.
Exactly.
Again, I say many people are afraid or reluctant to tell because it is someone that they trust. And so they keep it all to themselves and they have to suffer alone. The Julie Valentine Center does not want people to do that. We want people to come into the doors and know that there's hope and there's inspiration, and that we want to help you live the life that you see fit for you and meet you right where you are. Yeah. There is hope. There is healing in whatever way that you see fit, and we really want to be able to help victims in our community find the healing that they want for themselves.
Absolutely, and it's so needed. So I encourage people tonight, if you have a need, if you have hurts and wounds, then call and get help. Don't carry that. It's a terrible things, and so many elderly people feel guilty themselves, because they've been abused. And so that's wonderful that they can do that. And I encourage people also to bring clothes, give clothes, and even finances, to help this, because we're seeing it. When you listen to the news at night, there's hardly a night goes by that you don't hear that there's been some type of abuse.
That's very true.
And so I encourage people to help financially also, and also again to those that the churches and the communities and social organizations that they get in touch with you to get people to come out and talk with them about these situations.
Absolutely. We're always in need of volunteers. In 2013, we've seen over 2,100 people, and over 750 of those were children. We have a staff of 19. So that just tells you the magnitude of clients and clientels that we see.
And it's increasing all the time.
It's increasing. It is absolutely no way that we can do what we do without volunteers. So anybody that's out there that would like to volunteer, definitely please feel free to contact us. Either at our website, you can contact me directly and I can connect you with the correct person. Volunteers can do anything from going to the hospital and being a victim advocate, to be with those families in a time when they really need somebody the most. They can provide child care. They can help with data entry. They can help with our major events like the JVC Luncheon that I just talked about and the Run to Overcome. It's so many different areas that we need help in because we just can't do it alone. It really absolutely takes a community to allow us to serve that many clients.
Yeah, and especially today that there's more and more of it. You know.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I'm sure, you know, as time goes by, there'll even be more, you know. So, but it's a wonderful thing. I was not really aware of all that you did. And tell us again about what all you do.
Well, I like to explain our services in 3 tiers. So we have our prevention tier, our intervention tier, and our treatment tier. So I like to say we're there before something happens, when something happens, and after something happens. And our prevention tier, again, is the people that go out into the elementary, middle, and high schools, as well as the community, and offer prevention prevention and help people to identify sexual abuse, sexual assault, as well as sexual harassment. Part of that tier also is providing education to parents, which is what I specifically do, and helping parents gain the skills necessary to prevent their children from being abused. Our next tier, again, is intervention, and that's where our 24-hour hotline comes in and our 24-hour hospital accompaniment, as well as our forensic interviews and our medical exams. I like to group those into our intervention tier. When something happens, we're there to provide those services. And then our treatment tier with group therapy as well as individual therapy. That has been really successful. We have some awesome therapists that are truly passionate about what they do. I like to say we eat, breathe, and sleep it because it is just part of who you are.
Well, I can see where you'd have to. How are you going to keep up with it if you don't?
Absolutely, absolutely. We literally want to work hard in our community to make sure that our children are safe and happy. And it takes a village, and we have an awesome staff that works so well together to get that done.
That's good.
And therapy services are really helpful and beneficial for clients.
That's right. And you got the doctors and so forth that you need all the time. So
Absolutely. We have 2 forensic pediatricians that are there from Greenville Memorial Hospital who provide medical exams, and they're phenomenal as well with helping the children, as well as the parents understand exactly what's going on and how they can support their children.
Now, how often do you go into the schools? Do you go into all the schools in Greenville County?
We go into a lot of schools in Greenville County. I believe we have served last year over 5,500 students.
Wow.
And we add more schools every year. Our staff, our education staff, is phenomenal with going out into the schools and educating children on safe touching and personal safety and things of that nature to really help keep them safe, which is what is important.
Sure.
We want to be there when abuse happens, but we want to work just as hard to make sure that we're trying to prevent it as well.
Right.
Amen.
Well, I encourage parents tonight, too, to be aware of where your children are and what they're doing and who they're with. You know, to me, that's one of the most important things is to know who your children are with, even your teenagers. You know, you need to be so careful about who your teenagers are with, and even who they're visiting. It might be a child, another friend at school, but if that child goes to spend the night with that other child, then there are other people in the family there. And if you don't know that family, you know, be careful about who you let your child spend the night with.
Absolutely.
Who you let your child visit. You know,
Well, we got to be wise. That's one thing about it. We got to be wise about what we're doing. And God has put those children in our hands.
That's
We're
right.
really, they're not ours, they're His. And we're just, I like to say, we're stewards of bringing them up in the admonition of the Lord. And then, so we need to understand that. But I noticed on the screen again, I wanted everybody to, if you're looking, you need to see the information. Shamika's got several numbers there you can call, and the location is out on White Horse Road. So, write that information down if you've got, somebody that might need some help. That'd be a good way for them to contact her, and then she can set them in the right path. And
Absolutely.
But get the number down. I'm gonna make sure I write this down myself before I leave tonight, so I'll have it. Because there's people sometimes I have to talk to as a pastor, and they don't know where to go, who to turn to.
Absolutely. And making sure that they have that 24-hour hotline number, the 467-3633, so that when our office hours are closed, they still have someone that can support them, even when we're not there. Those hotlines are staffed by volunteers that are just as passionate as our staff is about sexual abuse and child abuse in general, as well as sexual assaults. So they'll be in good hands if they call the hotline and ask questions and receive support.
Amen.
Is there any kind of material that parents can get on child abuse to recognize these things?
Well, it's a lot of information on the internet that parents are able to get. We do a lot of informational sessions myself related to the signs or how to recognize offenders or things of that nature. So if they have any questions related to things like that, they're always more than welcome to reach out to us, and we can pull together something for them, because we want the community and the parents to know exactly what they can do to keep their children as well as the children that are around them safe, because it's our job as adults, just like you were saying earlier, to keep these children safe. It's not their job, it's our job as adults.
And children are so innocent, they're just naive, I mean, and they trust everybody.
Right, as they should be able to.
Exactly.
As they should be
That's
able to.
Exactly.
It's
right.
sad that,
is.
people take advantage of that, but
It
they
is.
absolutely do.
Thank you so much for coming. This has just
problem.
been so educational.
Thank you for having
It's
me.
been so good and it's so needed. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you
And we
for
wish you the
having me.
best with your baby boy.
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we're going back to Mark 209 with Mark Anthony, and they're going to be doing the song Run On.
You may run on for a long time.
Run on for a long time.
Run on for a long time. Let me tell you, God Almighty gonna cut you down.
Go tell that long-term liar. Go tell that midnight rider. Tell the gambler, rambler, a backbiter. Tell him God Almighty gonna cut you down.
Stop, God Almighty, let me tell you the news. My head's been wet with the midnight dews. I've been down on the bended knee, talking to the man from Galilee. I got spoke and he spoke so sweet. I thought I heard a couple of angels speak. He placed my hand upon my head. Great God Almighty, let me tell you what he said. Go tell
that long-term liar. Go tell that midnight rider. Tell a gambler, rambler, a backbiter. Tell him God Almighty's gonna cut you down.
you may run on for a long time.
Run on for a long time.
Run on for a long time. But let me tell you, God Almighty gonna cut you down. You may throw your rock, hide your hand, working in the dark, get your fellow man. Sure as God made the day and the night, what you do in the dark will be brought to the right. You can run and hide, slip and slide, trying to take a move from a neighbor's line. Sure as God made the rich and the poor, you're gonna reap it just what you sow. You may run on for a long time.
Run on for a long time.
Yeah, run on for a long time. But let me tell you, God Almighty gonna cut you down.
Go tell that long-term liar. Go tell that midnight rider. Tell a gambler, rambler, a backbiter. Tell him God Almighty's gonna cut you down.
Some people go to church just to sit by the fire, trying to make a dig with the neighbor's wife. Brother, let me tell you, sure as you're born, you better leave that woman alone, because one of these days, mark my word, I think that brother is gone to work. You sneak up and knock on the door. That's all, brother, you'll knock no more. You may run on for a long time.
Run on for a long time.
Yeah, run on for a long time. But let me tell you, God Almighty gonna cut you down.
rider, tell him dynamite is gonna cut you down.
Praise God, Mark Anthony, and run on. Sometimes I feel like running on too. Amen. But that gets you going. You know, it's one of them songs that gets you happy. I want to introduce the next group to you because this is interesting to me, and I'm learning a lot also. But we've got a group of young ladies here that they see. Let me get them all right here. Janet Gaffney, she's therapeutic foster parent at the end, far end. Then we got Tia Bradley. Now, Tia, what's your job?
The recruiter, or family finder, as I like to call it.
Family finder,
yes.
Okay. And then we've got, let me find it. I got too many names here. Kimberly, yeah, there it is. She did put it down here. I just missed it. Kimberly. So we're glad to have y'all with us.
Yes, thank you for coming.
This first part, opens up to what's going on. Now with y'all, you each have a separate thing you do. So, Ann, you started off.
Well, first of all, I want to know, what is the mission of SCYAP? And tell us what it means.
Sure. SCYAP stands for the South Carolina Youth Advocate Program, and we are a statewide nonprofit organization, and we provide services to children who have been abused or neglected. We work closely with the Department of Social Services and the Department of Juvenile Justice to work with these children who have been abused or neglected. Specifically, we are with therapeutic foster care in the upstate. I am the treatment supervisor. Of course, there's Tia, our recruiter, but we place children within our foster homes in the upstate. Specifically, our population are children who not only have been abused and neglected, but also are demonstrating some level of emotional, behavioral, or developmental, and even medical need that requires additional interventions.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so, Janet, tell us what Janet does. Or Janet, you tell us what you do, darling.
I love on the children.
Oh,
that's what I do.
Wonderful.
I love on the babies, and allow them to have a time of healing. Good. Just to kind of find their little niche and let them know that it's safe to love again.
So how long have you been doing this?
11 years now.
Is that right?
Yes.
How many children have you had?
I've only had about 5, but the last year I adopted the last 2 that I have. I have 2 girls.
Oh, is that
I've adopted.
right?
Yes.
That is wonderful. That is so good. And so tell us what exactly is a therapeutic foster parent? Whoever wants to.
Okay, sure. Therapeutic foster parents, everyone's familiar with foster parents.
Right,
We work specifically with the children who have some of the difficulties. So therapeutic foster parents receive additional training to not only understand what abuse and neglect is, but some of the behaviors and the emotional problems that children develop or may have already have prior to coming into foster care. So we work closely with our foster parents to understand child trauma. We work with them to understand how to intervene appropriately for children, how to de-escalate situations, to understand the different types of services that are in the community for the children. Our children need additional services based on their needs, so we try to educate our parents on what services are out there for our children and strongly encourage them to get involved with that.
And so you work with special needs children?
We do. We do.
Tell us about that.
We can have, we might have some children who have ADHD, just some attention problems. We might have some children who have some severe medical issues. We do have foster parents who like to work with the medically fragile children. We have some children who have depression, anxiety, any variety of mental health diagnoses that are coming out in behaviors. Our children sometimes receive special education services, which we strongly encourage our foster parents to get involved with. We see that a lot of foster children do struggle in the educational area, so working with the schools and the foster parents to understand and help that child get on the level that they're supposed to be on is our mission.
That is so needed today. Tell us what is the need in regard to the numbers of foster parents?
We are in great need of therapeutic foster parents.
I can imagine.
You know, becoming a foster parent is a calling for some folks, but when you're asking a foster parent to take a child into their home that may have some behavior issues, it's a little more difficult. So the need is great, not only in the upstate, but statewide. In the upstate, we have 51 licensed therapeutic foster homes, which we currently serve 42 children.
Wow.
Statewide, we have about 400 licensed therapeutic foster homes. And so just to give you an example of the need, we receive the referrals from the Department of Social Services. They will call us, or Department of Juvenile Justice, and state that this child has been identified to have some therapeutic needs. Do you have a placement for them? In the month of September in the upstate, we received 37 referrals, and we were only able to place 4 of them. And that's based on the needs of the child. We have to look at the dynamics of the family to see if it's appropriate. Statewide in the month of September, we received 96 referrals, and I believe we placed about 42 of those children. And you know, we're clearly wanting to place every child that needs a home, specifically children who have those additional special needs. So the need for therapeutic foster parents is great.
Oh, I'm sure it is. It takes a lot. It takes a special person, I'm sure.
It
You
really
have
does.
to have that compassion, you know. Janet is, I'm sure, you know.
Yeah, Jan, how did you start feeling the need to get involved with this?
I'm not sure exactly how. I was really just laid off from a job, and you had a poster in the unemployment office, and I was drawn into it. And I immediately wrote down all the numbers and called and just expedited through the system. And here I am now, 11 years later.
Wow.
I still have my home open to take in even more. If I had a larger home, I'd probably have more children.
Oh my goodness, that is wonderful.
But certainly it takes a commitment.
Yeah,
That's what I was gonna ask you,
sure.
That's what comes into it, because a lot of people can say, oh, I want to do it.
Yeah.
I love children. It takes more than love.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It takes more than patience, because these children are coming in from a very bad place. And so they're going to test you at every
I'm
end.
sure.
They're going to try to figure out, if my mom and dad didn't love me, or if they didn't care for me, why would you?
Yeah.
What are you going to do for me? And so it takes that foster parent who really wants to be committed to seeing a child through to whatever it may be, whether that child goes back to their family of origin,
Right.
or whether that child goes on to be adopted by another family, or what we like to say, a forever family.
Right, right. So how do you choose them?
Our foster parents, well, we ask that just some of the basic requirements are that you are 21 years of age or older, that you have a high school diploma, and that you are willing to go through criminal background checks.
Sure,
so we go through
absolutely,
all the checks.
yes.
And then from there, we do an assessment. We have what we call a licensing coordinator who comes into the home to make sure that the home is safe, that the environment is clear. They're going to be talking to every member of the family, because again, being a foster parent is not just an individual commitment. It's a commitment of the whole family, even the animals. You have a fish, the fish needs to be on board. Because it takes that entire family to be able to get these children to the place that they need to be for healing. And so after you go through the licensing process, at that point, you come in and you do what we call a pre-service training. If you have passed the credentials and we go through all of that, and you still feel like you want to go forward, then we do what we call a pre-service training, which is about 32 hours of training, intense training that is actually done by our staff members and our treatment supervisor, who are Kimberly. So we want to make sure every step of the way that everybody knows exactly what's going on, that there are no surprises. The paperwork can tell you one thing, but we like to be in our training, we like to tell you the real deal.
Yeah.
What type of behaviors you may see, and then not just what type of behaviors you may see, but then how to cope with those behaviors, how to get them through those behaviors.
I can see that.
Oh, I can see, I'm sure.
Well, if you think about a child, and not necessarily just a small child, but they've been hurt, or whatever's happening to them, they're going to reach out, but they got to be careful. I know I remember as a boy, I grew up in Charleston, and some guys on the chain gang broke loose. And I was just a boy about 8 or 9 years old. They come into our house looking for clothes. Wow. And I hid under the covers in the bed thinking they couldn't get me.
Wow.
And see, I had a fear of darkness after that for a long time.
Right. Right.
And it took me a long time to break that. In fact, when I went in the Navy, there was times the darkness, I didn't like it.
Right.
But I got over it. I grew out of it. But I could see how a little child, why should they trust you?
Exactly.
That's right.
And that's the question, and that's what we need for people to understand too. When you take on this awesome calling of becoming a therapeutic foster parent, you have to know that you're going to need to meet that child at the place that they are at.
Yes.
So by that, I'm saying that wherever they are emotionally, wherever they are behaviorally, you can't automatically fix them.
Right.
Isn't how it works. And you think about, you said, the chain gang came in and you hid under the covers. Think about if I took you away from your home. Even if it's wrong, even if what the people were doing to you was just bad, it's all you know.
That's right.
So if I took you from your home, I took you from your brothers and sisters, I took you from everything you know, then I can't expect that you're just going to come into my house and be obedient.
Oh, yeah.
And eat the food that I cook.
Yeah.
And decide you want to go to the same church that I want to go to.
And they tempt you in the little things, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It doesn't work like that. Sometimes that child may say, I don't like your food. I don't want your food. I've never had any of that. So you're going to have to work with that child.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
it
boy.
takes time.
And it takes time.
And a lot of love, I'm sure.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, love has to be tough too, though. Yeah. Sometimes you have to, put your foot down. I know, but
Well, we're looking for people to provide structure.
right.
Right.
We need
You
structure.
build character by training.
That's
Tracy.
right. That's right. And so there are a lot of things involved in that. And discipline is a part of that. But now we are looking for people who are willing to use different discipline techniques.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody knows about corporal punishment. When a child comes into foster care and is within DSS and DJJ services, corporal punishment goes out of the door.
Right.
None of our foster parents are able to use those techniques.
Right.
So now you have to open your mind, you have to think outside of the box to figure out what you need to do to provide that correct structure, whether it's love, whether it's the education, and even the discipline portion of it.
Right. Yeah, I can see. I can understand it. Of course, we raised 2 boys, so we know about that.
Yes.
Discipline,
Yes.
But I can see this amazes me in a way because it seemed like it'd be very difficult for y'all to get families that are willing to take a child in.
It is challenging.
I'm sorry.
It is challenging, and that's why we probably, that's why we're here, so that we can get the word out there of the need of it. We do have a part of the division that has regular foster homes, and so it is a little more difficult to us to come to a family and say, we know that you want to become a foster parent, but the children we serve are going to have these behavior problems. They're going to have these emotional issues. They're going to push you a little harder. So trying to recruit someone to understand that and to be able to pull from within themselves to be dedicated to that child, it does take some special people.
Oh, yeah.
And what kind of services do you offer to the children?
Well, within our foster homes, we encourage our foster parents, and DSS actually, works with us to decide what services the child needs. Most of our children receive therapy services. We either have that through the local mental health center or some private agencies throughout the state. We have a community-based services through SCIAP, which is the South Carolina Youth Advocate Program, which is based out of Columbia, but we have advocates statewide. And these advocates can work with us to provide therapy services. We can place behavior modification specialists in the home, or even in the school if you've got a child who's struggling specifically on maintaining their behavior in the school setting or the home setting. The behavior modification specialist can go into the home, into the school, and help that child learn the coping skills necessary to demonstrate appropriate behavior. We have family support specialists who can go in the home and work with the children. And we also have people who can provide transportation. DSS is a big organization, and the caseworkers sometimes struggle to be at 100 different places at 100 different times. So the transporters will take the children to and from visits or to and from therapy services.
So now, are you a part of DSS? How does that operate?
We are not a part of
You're
DSS.
not.
We work closely with DSS.
Right.
They're our referral source.
Okay.
So we have a great relationship with the DSS or agencies across the state. You have to when you're dealing with the children.
Sure.
But we are not affiliated with them. We're a private nonprofit.
So now how's your organization funded?
We are funded, we do bill Medicaid for our services.
Okay.
We do bill Medicaid, so that is where our funding source comes
Okay.
from.
Great, great. Well, I tell you, it is so needed today. With children that, are suffering, and there's so many of them out there,
Oh, yes.
So just encourage
Yeah,
people.
I know, and you think, well, I grew up, we used to see a lot of foster homes. We had boys that lived down the street from me that was in a foster home, but it wasn't like what y'all are doing, And they were just normal kids. But there's one of them a little bit older than me at that time, and he had the problem. He was withdrawal. But there was somebody worked with him. I guess it was DSS then, but they worked with him, and they came out of it, and all of them did well. Went on to school and everything. So I can see where this is a big need. But it's like Janet with you. Now you take these children in. You've been doing it for 11 years, and what happens? This is what would bother me. They get so close. You get close to them. You can begin to love them like they're really your own, and they say they're going to be leaving and going. Then what happens?
Well, you work closely with the agency, and they'll kind of let you know. But you're reminded of your mission and what we're supposed to do to help the children be healed and go forth.
So that's one of the things. But now you've got two. You said you adopted.
I do.
Yeah.
I've had two long-term. The reason why I haven't had that many, my children have been long-term children
Okay.
in my home. One I've had for 10 years before she was actually adopted.
I see.
And then the other one was for 4 years before she was actually adopted. So I had a lot of long-term and all with them. And it's been a challenging because, you never know what you're bringing in, but you trust the God that you serve, knowing that your attempt is to help.
Oh yeah.
And that's what you do. And you try to allow the child to be comfortable in their own skin, to know that they're valuable. These children are very special, very gifted children. And many of them are very gifted, but just haven't been given that opportunity to soar their wings.
Thanks. That's great too. And what you got, hon?
We're going for a break, but we want to pray over these before we
before we
go.
go,
We'll
so-
be back
Okay.
next
Yeah, so
hour.
stick with us, and we'll be right back in just a few minutes. But we want to pray because we're getting so many prayer requests coming in, and I noticed you had, gosh, you got two praise reports.
Yes.
One prayer for a boy that was saved and got saved and delivered. So that's great. Praising God for healing, and safety and peace. They got all of it together. So here we go. We're going to be praying. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you for your love and your grace. And every one of these that called in tonight, every one, you saw them when they picked up that phone and called. You saw them when they desired to reach out and touch you for help. We ask, oh Lord, that by the Spirit, that you would minister your grace and love to each one of these people, and that their health, their marriages, their jobs, all of them will be fulfilling. And we just thank you ahead of time for helping, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen.